Hi all, welcome to Jen's Creation Station and episode 4 of Late Night Lattes and Crafts. Tonight's video is a short tutorial on Bind It All bindings for beginners. I'll move everything over to my craft table and we'll get started this evening. I've had a few requests from my blog and my YouTube videos on how I always get such nice placement on my binding with my Bind It All. So I thought today I'd do a short video explaining how I line up my holes on my covers and my pages. The first step I take when creating a mini album, and you can do this with your own patterns, you can do it with patterns that you adapt from other people. What I like to do is to bring my holes all the way to the end. The Bind It All instruction manuals has you start in the middle and work out, and there's a big gap on both ends. I don't like that look. I like my holes to go to both ends. I always start 3/8 of an inch in. Now, in order to get perfect placement, you need to keep your pages in 1/2 inch increments. For instance, this is 7.5 inches, this is 8 inches, and as you can see, they're lined up on both ends. I start 3/8 of an inch in. This first hole that is 3/8 of an inch is not lined up with this groove right here. It's actually lined up with the beginning of your first hole. That's where your 3/8 inch mark is. First thing you're going to do is punch your first 6 holes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then what you're going to do is, just like it says in the instruction manual, this 5th hole will go into your groove right here, your hole guide. Then you'll punch 6 more holes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now you'll notice I only have 2 more holes here. Now what I do is I guesstimate where I think that last hole will be. And sure enough, every time one of these holes is going to line up with this hole guide and give me a perfect placement. And because I started down here, they line up. Doesn't matter what size your page is, it always works. Without fail, this system has worked for me. One thing I always keep in mind when I'm creating my mini albums is that I start with my pages. I don't start with my cover. That way I can work out towards my cover. Now, for covers, I allow an extra 1/2 inch for size. That gives me 1/4 of an inch on this end and 1/4 of an inch on this end. When I determine my width of my covers, I allow an extra 1/2 inch on this end. And the reason I do that is because the Bind It All O-wires curl, and depending on how many pages and how thick they are in your mini album, your covers are going to pull back slightly, and that way your pages won't stick out and show when your mini album is closed. Now, the page sample holes that you just saw, I actually designed for this mini album page. And this is the 7.5 inch mini album. And as you can see, those holes are perfect. I always keep this till I'm completely done with my mini album. The next thing I do is determine my cover size. Now, as I said, I allow 1/2 of an inch. That gives me 1/4 of an inch on each end. And as you can see, those holes line up as well. If you do this, allow an extra 1/2 inch, so you have 1/4 of an inch on each end, you'll bring your first hole in 5/8 of an inch. And this is the sample cut for my cover for width. Before I end my tutorial on Bind It All bindings, I thought I would show you my second mini album I ever made with my Bind It All. This pattern is my Checking It Twice mini album. I believe the tutorial was back in November, but I love the pages, and when I got all done I realized that my covers were uneven. It probably wouldn't be noticeable if I add some ribbons on my binding, but this is a 6 1/4 inch cover, and as you can see, they're not lined up. Had I added just another 1/4 of an inch, I would have had another hole and it would have been a perfect looking binding. One other suggestion I want to make is if you are going to put tags sticking up or sticking out, you may want to extend your covers to protect your tags. That way they don't get ragged on the edge. Your embellishments won't get messed up. Just remember on the binding width or height to add it in 1/2 inch increments so that your binding looks even top and bottom. I hope you enjoyed this short tutorial on Bind It All bindings for beginners. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me. If you go to my blog, on the right hand side there's an email address. Just click on it, send me your question through email, and I'll get back to you just as quick as I can. Thanks for stopping by Jen's Creation Station. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Bye for now.